Hi everyone! We are going to learn to finger knit a snake, and I will show you the sample of the one that I did earlier when we were live on Zoom with our class today. So that is a finger knitted snake, and you can see the top of the head is bigger and the little forked tongue there at the end. You can see that, you know, you have the thin snake body. I actually need to trim the ones off in the end. But anyway, you have the thin snake body, and then the head is a little thicker. So this is a very special form of finger knitting because we're going to learn how to finger knit with two fingers, but with using two strands of yarn at the same time. So you see I have my two colors here. I have a brown and like a khaki green. So we're going to knit together the two strands of yarn. We're going to start with two. And that's what we're going to use to make the long snake body. And then we're going to learn how to increase with finger knitting. And that's how I make the snake head. So if you did our video earlier when you were learning to finger knit the butterfly, it's very similar. But if this is your first time, you know, it might take a little bit to practice and learn and get the hang of it. But that's okay. That's why it's a recorded video. So you can pause it. You can rewind it. And I always knit with my left hand because I'm left-handed, but you know, if you're right-handed, you know, definitely it'll probably feel more comfortable for you with your right hand, but you do whatever feels comfortable to you. So you're going to hold your two pieces of yarn together. And typically with regular finger knitting, you start with, if you're doing the forefinger, you start with your strand of yarn hanging down here between your thumb and your index finger. But this time we're actually going to use these two fingers in the center as your finger knitting fingers. So you're going to hang your yarn down between those two fingers. You always want to leave a little bit of a tail. Probably doesn't have to be that long. Okay, so we are going to start. Okay, so you have your tail hanging down, and you're going to start to go in behind and around this finger, loop it around, and then, so I'll do that again. So you're basically going to weave it back and forth between your fingers. So I'm going to move the camera down a little bit, maybe it'll be easier to see. So this is your tail, and you're going to go in behind that finger and around this finger, and then you're going to come back around the back. This tail's getting in the way. There we go. Around the back of this finger and around that way, and then we're going to weave it again because you want to end up with two loops on each finger. So there we go. So that's what it looks like when you start. Okay, so to finger knit, you basically grab the bottom loop and you put it up and over that loop that's on your finger, like that. And then you're going to do the same thing with that finger. So now you're back to having two loops, and your little finger knitting body, the snake body, will kind of be like in between your fingers here. Okay, so we're going to do that again. So our yarn is out behind this middle finger. Okay, so you're going to take your yarn in behind and over the front of your fourth finger, and in behind and over the front of the other finger. Okay, so now we're back to two loops again, up and over. And I'll show you that one more time, but that's basically how you're going to make your snake body. And I always like to pull it a little bit. That kind of keeps the knitting a little tight, but you can make it loose if you want. You don't have to pull it tight. But you do have to make sure it's loose enough that you can still pick up this loop and put it up over your finger, because if you make it too tight, then it sometimes makes it too difficult. So again, to do our next row of finger knitting, you're going to take it in behind your index finger and up over the fourth finger, in behind and up over. And then you take that bottom loop, lift it over top, bottom loop, lift it over top. Okay, and now that we've done a couple stitches, we can actually take this tail that you were holding on to, you can put it around the back now. It's fine. The reason we do that at the beginning is that so it keeps it from unraveling when you're knitting. So you're going to continue on. I'm not going to sit here and do the entire thing, but you're going to continue on until you have it long enough that you like the length of the snake body. So, you know, sometimes with knitting, with patterns, you know, you say how many rows you should do, but I'm just going to entirely leave it up to you, depending how long you want your snake. So I'll be right back with you as soon as I have it long enough for my snake body. Okay, and I decided I'm going to make a little baby snake this time. Since I made the long one earlier that I did, I'm going to make a little baby to go with it. So I didn't do my length quite as long, but again, do your snake body as long as you'd like it. So now I'm going to show you how to increase to make the head of the snake. So your yarn, you know, you're at the place where you were about to wrap it around again to do more stitches. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take your yarn behind and go in behind that middle finger, and you're going to wrap it around your index finger and then come in behind, and you're going to just go weave it back and forth again like you normally do. So you're going to put it in front of that middle finger, in behind your fourth finger, and then around your baby finger, and then in behind and back around, and you're going to stop when you get into the middle, because if, as you can see right now, you should have 2 loops on the middle fingers and then 1 loop on each of the outside fingers. So what we're going to do is we're going to do these 2 like we're finger knitting, like we normally do. So again, up and over, bottom loop, up and over. Okay, so now we've got the beginning of our increases because we've got 4 stitches. So now this should be like almost basically hanging between your baby finger and your fourth finger. And what you're going to do is you're going to take it back around the outside of the baby finger, in behind. So again, weaving back and forth, and oops, sorry. And then you're going to do that again, and you're going to stop when you get to your baby finger, because look at that, we've got 2 loops now on each fingers. So now you're going to finger knit them, and we're going to do 3 rows to make the snake head. And again, if you want the snake head to be a little bigger, you could always do an extra row or 2, but 3 rows usually. So we're going to finger knit that row, and congratulations, because you've learned how to increase from 2 stitches to 4 stitches. And you're going to want to pull that as you're going along to try and keep it a little bit tight. I think I didn't pull it quite tight enough earlier, but you'll learn those things as you go along, and each one you make will be better and better. So that was our first row. So we're going to make another row. So again, you pull it in behind the baby finger, weave it in and out all your fingers, and do it one more time on the way back so that you've got 2 loops on each finger again. And then we go ahead and finger knit all 4 of those rows. All right, and we're going to pull that tight a little bit. Okay, and we're going to do 1 more of those for the snake head. So again, in behind the baby finger, front, weave it in and out and across 1 more time. So you've got 2 loops on each. All right, and there we go. We've created the snake head for my snake. So now I'm going to teach you how to cast off. And again, if you watched the other video that I did with the butterflies, it's similar to casting off that way, but a little different because we've increased the stitches. So what we're going to do to cast off, I'm going to take the loops from my baby finger and I'm going to transfer them over to the fourth finger. So you basically lift them up and over. So you've taken this and you've transferred it to this finger. And then I'm going to do the same thing and transfer it over to this finger. And you go like follow the pattern of the thing. So in behind. Okay, so there you go. So now you have 2 and 2. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finger knit each of these. So up and over, okay? And then I'm back down to just 2 of them. So now this is like the regular cast off. So take this loop, transfer it to this finger, and then finger knit it. So I've transferred it. I'm going to finger knit it. And then I'm left with my last loop. And you're going to want to pull that a little tight. So to finish casting off, cut that thread. And then you're going to take your thread and loop it through that loop and pull it through, and that will create a knot. And then so then once you've got your knot, then you can trim that off. You're going to trim it short because you might have a little extra piece that's kind of loose. And what you're going to do with that is you're just going to kind of weave it in and tuck it in the back of whatever you determine is the front of your snake and the back. So you're just going to kind of lift up some of the yarn pieces in the back and kind of weave it through. We just weave it in so that it's not hanging loose. And you might need to get some help with this. This is not super easy until you kind of learn it a little bit more, till you practice, but you can always maybe get help. But there we go. We've created the head of the snake, and there is our baby snake. And now the last part of it is to create the little bit of the tongue. And snakes traditionally have a forked tongue. So in your kit, there was a piece of red yarn. I'm using a piece of burgundy for the tongue, a little bit darker red. So what you're going to do is you're going to find a piece on the front of your snake that you can, at the very front of the mouth, that you can pull that yarn through. And you're going, oh, that little piece that I didn't weave that in quite good enough and it came loose. So see? Sometimes even people who've done this a few times need more practice, and that's okay. Practice makes perfect, eventually. Until we just keep practicing and practicing. So you're going to take that front, just take a little piece off the front to pull that red yarn through. So you see how I just wove it through the front? And you're going to tie that in a knot, and I would tie it twice to just keep it more secure. So tie that in a knot. Okay, so now you have, you know, the two pieces hanging like that. You know, and that's okay. If you want to leave your tongue like that, that is quite all right. And you could, you know, just cut it shorter. But to make the forked tongue like a lot of snakes have, what you're going to do is you're going to tie a knot, you know, a little bit further into the tongue like that. And that can be challenging too. So if you need help doing that, you can always ask somebody to help you. So what you can do is you can take these two pieces and then loop them through and then pull them. And you want that close to the beginning of the mouth, but not quite right at the beginning. So you can see how I created that knot, you know, right a little bit further down on the tongue. And then you're going to cut the two end pieces shorter. And then you will have the forked tongue of the snake. So that's how the tongue will look when you're done. So that is your little baby snake. Oops. There we go. So see, that's our baby snake. And as you can see, when you're knitting like that with the double yarn, it kind of makes, you know, makes it a little thicker than the doing with the 4 fingers, because you're holding the two strands together. And so this is actually would be great to make necklace or bracelet or anything like that with as well. So there's my mama snake and my baby snake. And a little suggestion, if you want, you could always, if you have some googly eyes at home, or if you have any, like, maybe your mom has some extra buttons laying around, maybe you could sew 2 buttons on for the eye of the snake, you know, or googly eyes, or anything that you want to use for the eyes, or you can just leave it like that and it's perfectly beautiful snake. And I love the 2 colors. It's very reminiscent of kind of the patterns that snakes can have. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial of making finger knitting the snake. And once you've mastered this, you can do a lot of stuff with finger knitting, because you'll know how to increase and decrease. And feel free to watch the video again and pause it when you need to, so that you can learn and practice and get really good at it. Thank you for joining me to learn about finger knitting. Take care.